Okay, so now it's 11:10, and then let us continue the morning session. So the next speaker is Professor Zeng from Chinese Academy of Science. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah, thank you for joining. Yeah.
thank you. So I hope everyone could see my slide.
Yes. Now slide is in the like editing mode.
Great. Yeah, I'm gonna share. So how about in the presentation mode?
Oh yes. Now we can
Right,
see your screen. Yeah. Okay.
right. Thank you. Um, Sorry I cannot join in person, but I'm really looking forward to the discussion today. So I'm a professor from Chinese Academy of Sciences. Well, also run a center called Center for Long-Term AI, simply because I think the topic related to today is really not a issue within a single country, but really, you need a long-term vision for to deal with the issues, not only safety, but really uh, thinking for the long-term view, how can we live in harmony with AGI and many others. So I'm also creating a Chinese AI safety network and I think the mechanisms compared to the AI Safety Institute elsewhere, it's somewhat complementary. Um, it will be complementary in a way that we're organizing the AI safety issues in China as a network, simply because we wanted to enable everyone within the space, not only from the frontier research point of view, but also, industrial evaluation, policy making, so and safeguard assessment in a comprehensive um, and cooperative network, so that everybody is on board instead of having the national institutes. So I think the effort is very complementary to the current landscape for the rest of the world. So today I'm gonna focus on the topic of from safety redline to live in harmony with AGI. I wanted to start by having a discussion on what should we do to machine intelligence that seem to be intelligent, but actually maybe not, and maybe very risky. So everyone knows, the argument from Alan Turing: if a machine behaves as intelligent as a human being, then it's as intelligent as a human being. But I think here we need more considerations. Let's say when you see these, and then you probably get your way to how to interact with, these things. But actually, maybe it will surprise you, simply because when you see these, shallow hands, then you wanted to, show your friendliness when you interact with, human with friendly handshaking, and then at the back, it's not a human. You wanted to shake hands with these shallow hands, and then you may have a rabbit that bites you, simply because the mechanisms underlying, the so-called hand is very different from the behavior level point of view. When you imagine yourself are interacting with a human behavior, simply because the shallow of the hand is behaving like a hand, well, the internal mechanisms is fundamentally different. So, and also fundamentally very risky to do it. So this is why I feel that the mechanisms, the data-driven, behavior level-driven AI, and the interactions to the society is very risky, unless you have a second thought on how to build AI using a mechanisms or natural or inspirations from the natural mechanism point of view, starting from the right mechanisms to build AI, and then you eventually will have a much safer AI. So I think the way that we see safe AI currently is very preventive. In a way, now, considering about not so frontier AI, you have very limited risk. But then later, when you get, larger and larger AI, but not larger in the sense of, the amount of parameter, but also in the capacities of different cognitive functions. So how many cognitive functions do we have for human? 100 to 400. Depends on the granularity you wanted to, classify these cognitive functions. And for even stronger AIs, that may lead to existential risk. So what we do now is simply to set the red lines, to do the prohibition. We wanted continuous enforcement and supervision, and we wanted to keep AI safe. But this is very passive. What I wanted to say is, and focus on the negative impact. So we have preventive thinking on this. But on the other hand, I think we also need to have constructive thinking and also in a reactive way. How can we ensure AI, going for good? And we have more active way to do the continuous alignment and embedding. That will lead to harmonious symbiosis of what we have for the future society. So I think this is the focus of my talk for today, starting from the preventive thinking, but all the way down to the constructive thinking and proactive thinking that lead to harmonious symbiosis. So I'm gonna start with an example because I come from technical AI. I'm fundamentally a brain-inspired AI researcher myself, very close to Kenji's background. In fact, we get to know each other not because AI governance and AI safety. We became to get to know each other by, brain-inspired AI that we are all for. So I think, of course, by natural evolution, the evolutionary principles count for developing natural intelligence. So when I build brain-inspired AI models, there are many fundamental questions that is very different compared to the current AI. So firstly, there are inhibitory and excitatory neurons in the natural brain. But we only have one type of a neuron in traditional artificial neural network. Well, on the other hand, many people are using fully connected neural nets. But for biological brain, we have different motifs connecting, these different building blocks, not only as a hierarchy, but also as a network, a very fruitful network and fruitful connections of patterns. So the work that I did here is to use the evolutionary principles to help a randomly connected brain-inspired spiking neural network to evolve to handle multiple tasks altogether. And then when you train the network with multiple tasks, and then the network finds its optimum, that is with 2/3 of the excitatory neuron and then 1/3 of the inhibitory neuron. And then it founds the motifs, the connectors of these microcircuits in an artificial way, not they do it on their own, not pre-chord inhibition, lateral inhibition, mutual inhibition, and also feedback inhibition. All of these patterns that has been evolved artificially can be found in the natural brain. And then we publish it on Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences. But the a challenge would be, what if the long-term AI can really evolve themselves? Then you have self-evolvable AI. So what is the danger to do that? So what if it evolved to use human limitations to achieve its goal? And what if it's evolved to change its goal? What if it evolved to cheat and destroy human while human don't aware? So these are the the real risk that frontier AI may bring us to. And then here comes the story of red lines of AI. Now there are many discussions along that line. I think it starts well, many perspectives to kickstart, but during the international dialogue on AI safety 2 years ago in Digitally, that the last slide is from the Digitally discussion that I was involved. Um, so basically, and then this year, as Stuart mentioned, that is the red line from this dialogue. Well, I agree in principle from these red lines. So this is why I also signed for that. Um, with a continuous effort of these 2 years. But I also have a second thought that many things that might missing. One is that do we have the enough red lines? Of course, from the international dialogue on AI safety, that's not enough. That's a starting point. Well, on the other side, can we really prevent the AI safety catastrophe by using these red lines? Some of the red lines discussed right there is not technically possible to control, to make the control. So this is why I have some rethinking of the red lines, not only the AI red lines, but also I would like to extend it with human red lines. As you can see, my mapping from so my consideration is, but no bypassing effective human oversight, of course, but I would like to add on no empowering actions intentionally targeting the mass without consent to the discussion at the International AI Dialogue on AI safety. Of course, thoughts on no reforming operational rules for infrastructure and environment management that can also map to some existing discussion to the International Dialogue on AI safety. But I would like to extend a lot more on the human right lines. That is really no giving up of meaningful and sufficient human control. That means when we are only talking about AI red lines, we think that human can take the responsibility. It's sufficient. When we are talking about meaningful human control, we thought it can be effective. But the truth is that now, due to the extension of generative AI, the so-called meaningful control is not meaningful in the first place, and also it's not sufficient. And also, by generative AI, humans are giving up their abilities and capabilities and their uh, abilities to control AI. That is really horrible. As you can see for the examples here, that is to control multiple UAVs by using brain-computer interfacing, or uh, or thinking about the question even by using AI-assisted methodology, but with human control, can we really protect from nuclear catastrophe? That is also a huge problem. And so this is why the forbid of using AI to control nuclear weapon is really essential. So I think this is the preventive way of thinking. But I think we also need to start another place to think from a more active way on 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 the constructive thinking, on the proactive thinking, uh, in a way that can we build AGI that is with harmonious symbiosis with human, and then maybe we need a new starting point. I wanted to draw back to the nature of the problem chemistry thing. And then of course the world has a nice saying, I think therefore I am, but we never say you think therefore you are, simply because you are in my perceptual bubble. And then if you wanted to challenge the question or answer the question, can machine think without a sense of self? And then I would argue that it would be quite hard to really to make a step forward and that for a thinking machine, simply because without a sense of self, I don't think that the machine can think. But when you think about, these general dialogue systems, when you ask questions and then they say, I think, I suppose, I would guess. But basically, it's a statistically significant information processing machine that is without true understanding, that is without a sense of self. But they argue, I think, and I suppose. Well, there's no I actually in generative AI, and all the AIs, very possibly, at the current landscape of of AI. But without the sense of self, I don't think we'll have moral AI. I also get inspirations from the Yang-Ming Wang's learning of innate moral knowing. Now I think the current generative AI um, is lack at the starting point when they have no data. There's lack of understanding of good and evil, and then when they are having of data with from the world, and then there is good and there is evil in the model, but the model itself, they don't know good and they don't know evil simply because they have no real understanding. So there's no real knowing of good and evil. Of course, they don't have moral knowing, that is do good and eliminate evil. They have if then rules, but the way that you are talking about them. But you cannot enumerate all the possibilities. So this is why in this philosophy, it says personal morality as the main way to social well-being. That is really the fundamental root of social problems, lies in the fact that one fails to gain a genuine understanding from a personal point of view, from the self point of view of oneself and its relation to the world, and thus fail to live up to what one could be. So I think these give many inspirations to what we should build, what kind of AI we should build. That is to move from value alignment to moral AI, starting from the sense of self-perception, self, an AI with self-perception, and then to distinguish self from others, and then to cognitive empathy, all the way down to emotional empathy and altruistic behaviors. We need moral intuitions on top of that, instead of only teaching right from wrongs. When you're having moral intuitions, and then you can do moral reasoning to get moral decision making. So this is the human way that get moral intuition and moral being. It is trained in an environment not only with learning, but also with decades of development and billions of years of evolution in a very interactive environment. Within that, there are other biological living beings and also non-living things for these billions of years of evolution that help us to get these morality. So how can we do that? So basically, so these are some of the tryings in my lab, starting from robot self-recognition from a mirror, that the robot can recognize themselves by using, the self-perception circuits inspired by the brain. And then we move to bodily self-perception. That is to challenge the robot hand illusion to get robots bodily self-perception. So that is the basis that the robot can pass the mirror self-recognition with offline learning. And with these brain-inspired self-perception, and then you can get an opportunity to build cognitive empathy models by distinguish self from the others by using the neural pathway inspirations from the brain-inspired model that we built for cognitive empathy. That is to help the robot to pass the false belief task, so that the robot can theorize, can emphasize what another robot is thinking about. And then these are all the basis for for emotional empathy and altruistic behavior that is at the right. And then we're having different agents interacting with the environment. Well, when some other agent is having difficulties or in a risk, and then these and some other agent is helping the agents avoiding the risk simply because not with reinforcement learning, but with their own self experience and cognitive empathy without reward functions that they can do it without any prior training. So this is what I call the very initial active altruistic behavior emerged from these brain-inspired AI models that will serve as a basis for moral AI. I think we have to rethink about the role of AI in that society in a way that in the Western society, people are considering about AI as a tool. So you wanted to build safe AI as a tool. Um, but let's say for countries like Japan, China, and also Korea, there are source of inspirations to treat AI as a quasi-member and also as a partner of the society compared to what the sci-fi tell us, that is the competitors or enemies of human as AGIs. So I think we have the triangle here with different roles of AI in the society. But I would have to say, although we have these kind of different understanding of the roles in the society for AI, but very possibly now that everyone is using only one approach to build AI, we wanted party member and partner of the society, such as the Japanese version, the vision. But all over the world, we don't really have a technology that will lead us to quasi member. Now people are all of all of us, I think, mostly are building intelligent tools that seems to be intelligent, but actually not. The goal is, of course, to teach AI as a beneficial living becoming. We wanted this vision that the AI can learn from this different philosophy, from Confucianism to be an exemplar person, from Buddhism to be a Buddha, and also from the Taoism to be a man of pure soul, and also a virtuous person. Um, that is with the environment of living harmony and also the philosophy of interconnectedness all of the world. And I serve as the UNESCO ad hoc member on the to deliver the recommendation of AI ethics. We're talking about living harmony um, within the secretariat and also within the expert group. I was supported by many of my colleagues from Japan, from Korea, and also from African. That everyone was thinking that a extension of traditional understanding of living in harmony are deeply rooted into these different cultures, not only from China, from Africa, but also from Japan and Korea, talking about an extension of understanding harmony between technology, policy members, and and human. Um, Talking about the very future, it's not only AGI, but also, we also have human with augmented intelligence. We may also have digital human. So we have very different versions of AGI that we have to consider about. And how can we really live in harmony with them? You cannot really forbid what they cannot of what they can do. You wanted to say what they can do, but actually, we envision the future in a way, really as a sustainable symbiotic society. That alignment with human values are not enough, simply because now it's really a human-centric world. We never understand the world in the right way. That is not a human-centric world. It should be an ecology-centric world. And human values need to be adaptable to change for this symbiotic society. Simply because when AGI is strong enough to see human as ants, and now when we see ants, we never protect ants. And then AGI will question us. You never protect the ants. How can how should I protect you, given the fact that I see you as an ant, like you see the ants itself? So I think value alignment with human for AI is already very challenging, but still relatively easy, I would say, compared to that human alignment with the future is even harder. So I think self-evolving AI is easier for adaptation, while human evolution is much slower, especially at the mind level. So we need beneficial AI, and we also need beneficial human for future symbiotic ecology and society. Uh, we will have artificial lives, artificial beings, not only as artificial, AGIs, digital human. We'll also have artificial, non-human uh, animals, and also artificial plants in the future symbiotic society. But all that will not lead to thinking when you only consider about how to control AI, but really to use a evolutionary thinking that how can we build a symbiotic society, not only with a preventive way, but also in a constructive and a proactive way. You create a moral AI, starting with a sense of self, and you help them to get to understand why they have to do that and why they should do that, to why they should do that, instead of enforcement of what you wanted them to do. Because we'll never, when they really come, we'll never get an opportunity to control them simply because it's really self-evolved architecture, and we need to evolve to change our views to see it, and then we get the opportunity if we can build a symbiotic society all together by all living becomings. So that I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Zeng. I think we have like 3 minutes if we have any questions or comments for Zeng. Yeah, please use the mic.
Thank you for your very inspiring talk. I'm Yuichi Maruyama at the AI Alignment Network in Japan, and I was very interested in your view of how different values should be taken into account when we think about AI. And you mentioned about Buddhism, Taoism, even African values. And I was wondering if how we should be think about preserving those cultural diversities while in your latter part of the presentation you talked about we should update our values into more ecological centered values. So how do we strike that balance?
Thank you. I think it's very important to, of course, to keep the inclusivity of the future value system. It's not only a human value system, like I said, it should be an ecological value system. But like I said, if it's really a sustainable symbiotic society, then it should keep the interoperabilities. That means, of course, we will have very different understanding, but human should have the capacity and willingness to to find interoperabilities among different value systems, and all the way towards these symbiotic society. So I think if the super AI is really super, it will also be super from the altruistic behavior point of view. It will also be super altruistic and super empathetic. That means they will understand why we make this choice, and also they will understand it will take time for human to evolve to be an ecological centric view. And then so I think I'm more optimistic when we are having the right way to build AI, we will get a super altruistic AI. But I'm more negative on the truth that when I talk to my students, not only from China but also all over the world, because I also teach in. So I have a class with 90% of the students coming outside China, when I talk to them about, the potential symbiotic society, and humans should learn from the history about their mistakes. And then my student says that, Professor Zeng, you never learn a lesson that human will never learn a lesson from the history. Of human will make mistakes again and again and again. So this is why I'm talking about, it's too slow for human to evolve, especially at the mind level. But we need to find these interoperabilities. So we need to be. So this is why I think the super AI cannot be controlled unless you build it to be a super altruistic AI, starting from the sense of self, and let themselves realize why they need to be altruistic, why they need to be with compassion. I think that's truly important. Yeah.
Thank you, Zeng. And I think we're at time, so we'll go on to the next speaker, who is Satoshi Kurihara from Keio University.
Thank you very much.